and I am Michael Chagani. Tonight, Hong Kong's crazy property prices. With me is Housing Secretary Anthony Cheung Beng Leung. Thank you, Mr. Cheung. Before I go on, thank you for being on this show. I just want to point out that you're actually the Housing and Transport Secretary. You're in charge of two very important areas there. I might get to some transport questions later on. But before I even go on to housing questions, I want to ask you about this huge thing that's happened with the Diaoyu Islands, and you know, some of Hong Kong's activists went there. They managed to get ashore and holding up the mainland China flag and the Taiwan flag, the China flag, and I don't think they held up the Hong Kong flag, but there you go. Are they heroes? Would you think that these people are heroes, these activists?
Well, I think for many people in Hong Kong, I mean, we have always held the line that the Diaoyu Islands are part of Chinese territory. So to that extent, I suppose it's clear from public reaction that they welcome these few residents of Hong Kong being able to demonstrate their commitment to the position that Diaoyu Islands are part of China. But of course, as a government official, I have nothing to add to what the Chinese Foreign Ministry has said. I think the central government is in liaison with the Japanese government.
Well, yeah, you know, there's a
peaceful
right. You know, I mean, the issue that they had been in contact to deal with the matter. But as a Chinese and as a Hong Konger, do you feel proud?
Well, in my generation, when I was a young person, I mean, we belong to what might be described as the Boudil, Protect the Diaoyu Islands generation. So there's much.
Were you part of that?
I was part of that. I did take part in protests.
So you must be proud.
Several decades ago. So we do have some strong sentiment. But of course, given the fact that the Diaoyu Island issue is also a very important diplomatic issue between China and Japan. Of course, from the government's point of view, we would like to deal with the issue in a more peaceful manner.
Sure, you know, but you know, leaving the foreign issues aside, in Hong Kong, it is a good thing. I think many people would agree that this. You know, they are considered heroes, that their bravery, their defiant act has in a way united Hong Kong. In the same way that I remember Hong Kong was united when so tragically Hong Kong tourists were killed in Manila. And that's happening here too. Do you find that that's a good thing?
We can sense that there is a demonstration of support from the Hong Kong community to the in terms of supporting those residents who were detained by the Japanese authorities after they landed on the Diaoyu Islands, and of course that has a lot to do with the sentiment about Diaoyu Islands being part of China, and for several generations, in a way, Diaoyu was an issue. So you may argue that this is really part of a national education process.
It is. Many people are saying that's the kind of national education
that was the moment when this sense of national identity was clearly demonstrated.
So this, you know, what they did landing on the Diaoyu Islands, that should be part of national education. That's what many people are saying. That's true patriotism. That's the kind of thing that people should learn.
Because as we have noticed, those few activists, when they landed on the Diaoyu Islands, they hoisted the PRC flag.
The China flag, right, the PRC flag, right, exactly. Not the Hong Kong flag, but and they sang the national anthem.
So that is very clear.
Okay, well, you know, you are the Secretary for Housing and Transport. I'm going to leave that and go back to housing, another very, very hot issue in Hong Kong, more long-lasting, I think. You know, some papers, the last few days, the property market was on fire, in that, you know, there was a case, and within 24 hours, 13 flats in Tai Kwu Shing were sold at very high prices. And then the next day the media says, the property market has now reached a lunatic situation. As housing secretary, do we have a lunatic situation in Hong Kong?
Well, I noticed that newspaper commentaries have described the current situation as lunatic or panic buying. Of course,
I think it's ridiculous.
As secretary for transport housing, I would not like to see that Hong Kong people just buy properties out of panic. Now,
Was it panic?
If we listen to some experts, including economists, I think they have very different views from the general impression. Now, let's take the current situation in context. Indeed, prices have gone up over the last few months. In fact, the upward trend began to show from the beginning of the year of 2012. Because last year, the second half of last year, actually there was a downward adjustment. And then there was this upsurge in the first half of this year. And over the last couple of months, indeed, the prices and rental levels have continued to move forward.
But it is ridiculous that people can't afford to buy homes in their own city.
So this is something that the government is certainly paying close attention to, because of course the government doesn't take the position of actually directing prices. I mean, this is not the kind of government we have in Hong Kong. We facilitate a healthy free market. But at the same time, we are concerned about any significant fluctuations.
But forgive me for saying this, Mr. Secretary. You are concerned, we're monitoring the situation, we're looking at it closely. These are the phrases you use, the Chief Executive C.Y. Leung uses, the Financial Secretary John Tsang uses. But that's not enough. People are saying that is not enough. You need to take some action now.
We have actually kick-started measures. Now, of course, these measures could be long-term and short-term. Now, ultimately, I think to relieve the situation, there must be a more stable supply of new houses, land supply, housing supply. Now, this has to be done in terms of an overall sort of longer-term strategy. And we will be initiating a new round of long-term housing strategy review within the next few months. And in that process, we'll assess the long-term supply, demand for housing from different sectors, young people, elderly, those households who can't really afford the market prices and rentals. And we'll be making plans for ensuring the supply of land for those demands.
And what is short term?
In the short term,
because long term seems too far away. People need relief now. What happened last week was prices will be higher than 1997, pre-1997 levels. When you talk to people about long term, they say that's too long.
Yeah.
They
now,
want short term.
In the short term, I think people should know about the numbers, the number of new housing that will be rolled out. Now, if we look at the next 3 to 4 years, actually we will have more than 65,000 units that will be supplied to the private sector market.
Per year or over 3 to 4 years?
3 to 4 years. Okay. Now, in the first...
You're talking about 65,000 private flats? Mixture
flats.
Of home ownership and public housing?
Private flats.
Just purely private flats?
Purely for the private residential property market. And then, of course, for the public sector, we have committed to an annual average of 15,000 public rental housing units over the next few years. And then, starting from 2016 to 17, the new home ownership scheme flats will be coming to the market. And then we are talking about an average of close to 5,000.
But that's still, you're still talking about 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. But then we still have the private housing coming onto the market. We have the public rental housing. And if we look at the new units being constructed, in fact, the number of new construction units within the first 6 months or 7 months of this year is 40% more than the same period last year.
I know, but the prices
so the pace of new supply is actually gaining momentum.
But people know this, yet prices are going up to a panic level. You've said, don't panic.
That's why we urge the people not to panic, because the current situation is the market could be quite volatile. Now, if you look at the overseas situation, the situation in Europe, international situation, there's a lot of there are a lot of commentators, experts who are warning people to be aware of any bubble burst. So I think we have to be very careful.
So why are people panicking?
Well, that is something that we are.
Why are people rushing to buy apartments at record high prices?
Yeah. Now, of course, I cannot, as an official in the government, I cannot tell people whether you should buy or not.
Or whether you should panic or not.
But I would try to urge people be aware of both the local situation and the international situation. If you are really in need of, you really feel that you like to buy now, and you know the situation, and you can afford it, then of course, as a purchaser, you have your free choice. But then, as government, we have to ensure that the market situation would remain more or less stable, because we don't want major ups and downs. And if we detect any major fluctuations, then of course for the government we will consider any corresponding measures.
Well, you know, this up and down is a question I'm going to ask you right after the break. Don't go away, see you soon.